paramount importance. We bring to you Dr. Prateek Gupta, who will be talking to you on a step-by-step protocol on placing rubber dam, how to use different clamps, how to isolate more than one tooth, and many more things that he has in his armory. So I am joined again today with Dr. Samira Sheikh, the moderator for today's session. She's an accomplished prosthodontist and implantologist and an associated in my clinic. Over to you now, Samira.
Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome to the first how-to series sessions presented by Dentoscope Academy and FutureDent. Friends, I hope you all are doing good. We all have always given excuses for not using rubber dam. But now every guidelines from the dental authority is emphasizing on the use of rubber dam. Learning rubber dam placement is a need of ours to practice safely in our clinic. So to teach us about rubber dam placement, we have Dr. Prateek Gupta from Hyderabad. He will also talk about how quickly and conveniently we can do fillings with bioactive restorations. A few words about Dr. Prateek Gupta. He has completed BDS from Sri Sai Dental College, Vikarabad, and Masters in Laser Dentistry from University of Vienna, Austria. He has also completed PG certification in oral implantology from Manipal University. Dr. Prateek Gupta has undergone extensive training in aesthetic dentistry from Tokyo University. He is KOL for Tokuyama Dental, BioClear Dental Group, and Zoomax Microscopes. He owns a practice in Hyderabad, which is limited to aesthetics and implant dentistry, and all the procedures are performed under microscopes. He also runs a state-of-art training academy named Aesthetics Training in Hyderabad. I now request Dr. Prateek Gupta to commence the session.
Hi everyone. Let me start the screen share first. I'm online and visible?
Yes, you are.
Perfect. So I would first like to thank Dr. Anil Arora for inviting me to do this how-to series. We're starting a brand new series today, and we wanted to make this more interactive. So you will have less of lecture content and you will have more of videos that will be played, and you understand how you take this back to your practice the day it starts. And that day is hopefully very soon. On top of that, you will also learn the need of the hour to finish appointments at ease. You do not have enough time now to go on and sit finishing each and every tooth at different appointments. You want to finish quadrant dentistries. Yeah, there have been norms that you should finish as much as possible in one single appointment. You do not want to change your PPs again and again. You do not want the same patient to be coming into the clinic again because there's a lot of virus load overload in your clinic. So how good are these new bioactive restorative dentistry in fitting in the bill and finishing the restoration or all your procedures in one single appointment? So that's a picture of my children, and I kept that in the main frame because you need to look at them. You need to go back to your home every single day after practice, and you will be close to these guys. So make sure you are practicing in a safe environment. Make sure you follow all the rules that have been laid down, and do not start before you are sure that you are safe. This is about me, and thank you for the introduction, Dr. Samira. I guess she's gone through all of that. This is where I come from. I come from the city of Nawabs, Hyderabad. We are famous for our Charminar. This time it's Ramzan season going on, and we miss all the rush near the Charminar this time, because that's how busy that those bylanes are usually at this time. But as this is the time of COVID and everyone is under lockdown, those streets, and I stay very close to Charminar, about 1 kilometer away. You can actually see the 4 minutes from my rooftop. That's how close I stay to Charminar, and yet all these streets today are deserted. Nobody is there on those streets. I also come from the land of biryani. The Hyderabadi biryani is world famous, and the Cyber Towers, which were coincidentally one of the biggest towers established, which got us on the world map as the high-tech capital of the country. And we are also famous for our Hyderabadi lingo. This is just to lighten the mood, where in Hyderabad, you come and you ask for baigan. You are not asking for brinjal. You are asking for everything other than brinjal. Just listen to this TikTok video that I love.
आप और मेरे लिए बैंगन सिर्फ एक वेजिटेबल हो सकता है। हैदराबाद में बैंगन के शौखा, बैंगन के लोगा, बैंगन की बातें, बैंगन की बच्ची, बैंगन का प्यार, बैंगन की इज्जत, बैंगन का नाम, बैंगन की बातें, बैंगन को बोलो, बैंगन को सुनाओ, बैंगन से।
Okay, so that's how close we are to brinjal. Anyways, coming back to dentistry, we all want to go back to doing this, back to the smiles. But post-COVID, it's going to change a little. It's just a speed breaker. It's not a full stop. It's just a comma in the sentence. You have been given a chance to reinvent yourself now. So it's time you sit back, think how you want to practice, taking it forwards from here. What all would change at the end of this lockdown, and hopefully that day is very soon. The problem isn't going anywhere. We have to learn to live with corona for some time now, but we will be coming out stronger, mind hungrier, because you haven't been practicing for quite some time, and you want to get back to practice, and healthier because you've been sitting at home having probably the best meals of your life. Our wives and our mothers are exceptional cooks, so you will come out healthier, and hopefully you're taking care of your health also. Now, we as dental fraternity, we've been put at the highest risk because we are working the closest to the area from where corona as a virus spreads. So now more than ever, we need to have a plan, and we need to know how to implement it, because we need to be free from the disease, not just for us, even for people around us. I'm sure most of you have a grandparent at home, or a father and a mother who's about 60, and this is more dangerous for them. So you are more looking at protecting yourself for these people. And this is a picture that shows how corona is infected in the throat. And this is a picture I picked up from the internet, but that picture scares me, because if I am working in this area closer onto the teeth, I am working in the place which could be the most infective. So aerosol related treatments as of now needs to be deferred for a few months. That is what is the general consensus going on. Even if you have to do aerosol, I was listening to webinars, and they recommend the use of micromotors along with external irrigations. You can use electric motors like a micromotor. An electric motor is much better because it has better torque, and it doesn't use the compressed air from the compressor. Most important right now, please do not panic buy stuff. Please do not buy every stuff that is being recommended. Go through the research, go through what fits the bill to your clinic, and then buy it. For me today, the most important fact that can protect me from this is simply putting a sheet of rubber there. If that sheet of rubber can protect the aerosol that comes from the oral cavity, and I am concentrating on the teeth that I am working on, I am sure this can bring down the load of the virus very close to us. Now, the need of the hour is atraumatic restorative dentistry now. We are going back to hand instruments for some time, not forever, but for some time we are going back to hand instruments. You do not want to use the drill for some time, but say the patient comes in and he has sensitivity or he has pain, and you will have to treat him, because pain is considered to be a medical emergency. And in India, for every patient, pain and sensitivity are kind of correlated. So they do not understand what is pain and what is sensitivity. You will need to now sit with the patient, tell him that this is a procedure that I can do as of now. We will always get you back on the chair once the whole episode goes down. A basic armamentarium needed, and this is with relation to the atraumatic restorative methods and any restorative dentistry in general. You need good mouth mirrors. The first thing that you will need is very good mouth mirrors. Please do not buy back surface or the back reflective mouth mirrors anymore. You need mouth mirrors which are front surface rhodium coated, because that is the mirrors that work the best. You have the best vision. You need good hand instruments. Buy good quality ones. I always prefer Hu-Friedy as a brand. It's just a personal preference, but for me the brand works very good at my hands. And you need spoon excavators now, especially when you're doing atraumatic restorative dentistry. You need a lot of spoon excavators, good sharp spoon excavators, and learn sharpening of instruments. You will need to sharpen your instruments at regular intervals because they need to be sharp for you to be working quickly. And you need to decide on your materials now. Composites are a very good material, but for some time, if you're not doing restorative dentistry like you used to, and you're looking at atraumatic restorative techniques, you're looking at GICs. That was possibly the only option when we were in college, but now you have bioactive resins, which are similar to GICs and have the properties of composite also incorporated. We shall go through the material selection very soon. Use of caries detector dyes. Yes, you need caries detector dyes. I know they even stain the plaque, but still caries detector dyes are good to give you a guideline. So don't use it as the end protocol. That means wherever the dye infects, you don't need to take out the entire area there. But a caries detector dye with your hand instruments and a tactile sensation works the best. Electric motors, I guess I've spoken about it. Electric motors for me bring down the aerosol generation to a lot basic level because they do not use compressed air. They use air like a jet and not like a mist. And the fact that they have a lot of torque that they can generate, your work will be finishing quickly. So you also need to look at finishing your work very quickly during this time. Again, you can also use micromotors with caries removal burrs. You have carbide burrs, you have special caries removal burrs, polymer burrs, which you can be using, which are very close to the pulp. So you need to set your armamentarium right. You need to have the best possible armamentarium at your disposal, because then you will be working quickly, you will be working better. And for me, the most important thing that is missing in all of this is magnification. You cannot work without magnification, especially in areas which are very, very deep inside the mouth. Now imagine you are bending left, right, and center, looking right inside the mouth, and that is where the droplets are manifested. So stay as far away from the patient as possible. In my practice, this is the most important tool because this has changed the way I've looked at dentistry. Personally speaking, this has been my best investment to date. And even if you look at from your personal point of view, look at what happens when you move from working with a naked eye and working with the operating microscope. You are sitting so much erect, your posture is correct, you do not have neck pains. I know a lot of dentists who have frequent neck pains when they practice without the microscope or even without a loop. And for people who've changed to the loop, they are much better today and they are able to practice much comfortably. Also, this is published on the Facebook page of the Academy of Microscope Enhanced Dentistry. If you look closer, understand that the dentist working without any sort of magnification is so close to the mouth. Whereas when you work with the microscope, two things. You are, one, mostly sitting behind the patient, so you're not staring down inside the mouth. Second, you're pretty far. It's not as far as ideal, but you are at least far for those aerosol that are generated to travel and to reach you. Let's look at material selection then, and what you would be doing in cases like these. The most common go-to material, I believe, available in every clinic would be GIC. And the advantage with GIC is the fact that it bonds to dentine. The only true chemical bond in dentistry is the bond of GIC to dentine, and it bonds to dentine. The advantages, if you look at GIC versus and silver amalgam or versus a composite, is the fact that it is aesthetic when you compare it with silver amalgam. Obviously, composites are much more aesthetic, but in the posteriors, I believe the patient can get away with GIC fillings also. The biggest advantage is the fluoride release and the ability to recharge the fluoride. But for it to recharge the fluoride, you need to keep applying external fluoride every 5 to 6 months. That means the fluoride that is already there inside the GIC at the time of the mix would get dehydrated by about 5 to 6 months. So you will have to recharge it. Like I said, the biggest advantage that I see with GICs is the fact that it bonds to dentine and it has excellent flexural strength. And that's why in a class 5 case, you still have resin modified GICs, which are probably go to in a lot of conditions. Looking at the disadvantages, The biggest disadvantage is the fact that it is soluble in saliva. That means you come back after some time, the GIC would start to leak. And because of this, you would have secondary caries. A secondary caries is also prevented because of the fluoride release, but because it is soluble in saliva, you have leakage that happens. And it is a semi-permanent restoration. It's not a permanent restoration. You cannot tell the patient that this is done and this will be there for quite some time. And you need to recharge. So for me, GIC is not a permanent solution. But if you still want to use GICs, I would recommend them in all these cases where if your patient is a high caries risk index patient, you have a lot of class 5 restorations that you're doing, pediatrics, yes, and as a liner in very deep restorations. But my recommendation is at least move to capsules. Please do not hand mix GIC any further. Move to capsules at least. You do not want to be sticking your finger inside that mouth. Put it inside a capsule, even for the patient. You look at all this from the patient's perspective also. Even for the patient, it looks so neat when you have a GIC mixed in a capsule and then it is placed inside the mouth, rather than you mixing on a dirty pad and then you're trying to carry it away. You carry it on your finger or on an instrument, place it there, then you wet your finger in Vaseline and then try to dab it. I mean, that looks ridiculous. Please move at least from hand mixed GIC to these capsule mixed GICs that are shown there in the picture. You have capsule mixed GICs from almost all companies available today in India. Next, you should, and probably this is the present of dentistry and the future post-COVID, you should be looking at bioactive resins. You do not know for how long this problem can be there, and you do not want to repeatedly do GIC restorations. So for me, bioactive resins are the present and will be the future of dentistry. We are moving away from composites, especially in the posteriors. For anteriors, you still have composites because aesthetics is what is more important in the anteriors. But in the posteriors, you want quick dentistry and you want something that lasts. Now, bioactivity, some of the slides here are given to me by Mala from PulpDent, and I'm thankful for that. So bioactivity for patients is the fact that these materials simulate the natural remineralization process. They are moisture friendly, they can transport water and release and recharge essential minerals. These are required for the teeth to remineralize itself. Bioactive materials are dynamic. When you say dynamic, they change according to the condition that they are in. And in the presence of saliva, they elicit a biological response and form a layer of appetite. Applications in dentistry would be prevention. Obviously, sealants and varnishes, you would want them to have fluoride, you would want them to be biologically active inside the mouth for them to change according to how the mouth changes. Restoratives, yes, we've moved to pulp and canal therapies now because you have biodentine, which is a sort of a bioactive, and you have bioceramic sealers, which are probably the most advanced things that are in endodontics today, and they are working very well. And you have bioactive cements that are available, the crown and bridge cements. With orthodontics, yes, I would want a bioactive orthodontic cement also, and that is in the pipeline, as that is what being told to be by PulpDent. The most accepted definition of what bioactivity is, and this was given in 1969, is a bioactive material that is one which elicits a specific biological response at the interface of the material. Interface could be with the tooth and also with the saliva. And with the tooth, it results in the formation of the bond between the tissues and the material. This definition was slightly altered by Jeffries in 2014, and he says a bioactive material is the one that forms a surface layer of appetite-like material in the presence of saliva or saliva-like substitute. If you look at the images down here, and if you notice, there's a test material and dentine, they've created an artificial gap. If you look at self-adhesive resin cements, if you look at resin modified glass ionomers and glass ionomers per se, the gap remains even after 58 days. Nothing changes. But if you look at bioactives, calcium aluminum silicate and calcium silicate, which is the bioactive resin now, if you look at them, the gap has been closed. They are trying to bond and close the gap. That is what you want in a material. When you see gaps like that closing, you now realize that there is less chances of micro leakage, and this is going to stay for like some time in the patient's mouth. As I always say, composites fail from inside out. That means there is bonding failure first with composites. Dentine resin bonds disintegrate over a period of time. I've taken a couple of webinars on composites, and clearly composites seem to fail. Glass ionomers, they fail from outside in because they are soluble in saliva. Once they get soluble, you have micro leakage that happens. Let's look at some clinical cases with bioactiva and why I believe bioactive resins are the present and the future of dentistry is the fact that every single time you brush, it takes the fluoride from your toothpaste and it recharges itself. It takes the fluoride from saliva and recharges itself. So it prevents secondary caries formation. It also prevents debonding because as you saw, the gap was getting closed. It was bonding chemically to dentine, and you can still etch and bond. So if you have enamel, you can still etch the enamel, you can still bond to it, and you have micromechanical retention like you would have for composites. So these materials for me have taken the best of GIC and the best of composites, and this is a new series that have been given to us, and this is the future of dentistry. You look at cases like these, child with rampant decay. I mean, for some time, if you put composite in the mouth there, trust me, it will fail. What will it bond to? You hardly have enamel in those class 5s. And bonding to dentine, and especially dentine, which is caries affected, is about 40% less than what is in with natural dentine. But if you look at what has been done as a treatment, bioactive resins, and trust me, these will last. My mother is a secondary Sjogren's patient, and she has about 15 or 20 of these class 5s in her mouth with root caries. I used to change them every 6 months to 8 months. Composite wouldn't last, GICs wouldn't last. For the last 3 to 3.5 years, I have done bioactive resins in her mouth, and that is what brought me to bioactive resins. The first time I was introduced to this concept was listening to a lecture of Dr. Rumpa Vig. Ma'am introduced me to bioactive resins, and then I took this up. I thought the first patient that I would try this, if it is so good, is my mother's mouth. And every single day she's using those teeth. For the last 3 years, I have probably changed one restoration out of the 16, 18 or 20. I don't remember the exact number now, but it's more than 15 that she has. She has a lot of root caries. She's a secondary Sjogren's patient, so she has dry mouth. And that is what convinced me that this material is here to stay. If you look at this, very similar to what I have been speaking, this is probably a special child, unable to maintain the oral hygiene. But if you look at 2 years post-op with that bad hygiene, you still have restorations which are looking very good. Again, another case where you have a lot of root caries, a lot of class 5 carious cervical lesions, and these demand things that bond to the teeth. And that's your answer there. Immediate post-op and a 6 months follow-up, the teeth look splendid. Look at the response of the gum to these bioactive resins, and some of this have even gone subgingival in some extents, like here. So these are also subgingival restorations, and yet you see how good the response is after 6 months. In a mouth like that, I cannot believe composite will last 6 months, even after you take the best of precautions to bond it. Because maintenance is the most important part of composite restorations. Any further questions on Activa bioactives, you can actually mail or call Dr. Rumpa. She will reply to them, and she's very sweet. She will take time to explain things to you and make sure you understand the science and logic behind all this. Coming to our primary topic for today, isolation. And for me, isolation means rubber dam ideally. And this was not right now, even before the times of COVID. If I'm looking at bonding, I'm looking at rubber dam. But now, more so, if I'm looking at doing dentistry, I'm looking at rubber dams today. Because if I do not isolate myself from the rest of the oral cavity, there are chances that I might get infected. Like I said, a bonding or any procedure for me, this is a quadrant dentistry, isolated there, isolated directly till the central incisor. But if you look at things, I have better vision, I can work at ease, I can work precisely, and I will still be isolated from the rest of the oral cavity. In these times, I do not want to get infected. I saw this somewhere on the internet where the rubber dam should be mandatory after COVID in dentistry with a question mark. I believe that question mark there has to go. It is a exclamatory mark. So it is a compulsion that you have to practice with rubber dam post the COVID times. Whenever you open your clinic, if you are working, please start using a rubber dam in every possible case. I will show you videos where you can also use a rubber dam to do a crown prep if you want. So probably you will have to use rubber dam for the rest of your life. And like I said, this might be that startling change that we were needing. So you can go ahead and use rubber dam everywhere. If you look at rubber dam isolation and the basics of rubber dam, J.M. Prime in 1937 said, starting the daily use of rubber dam is the beginning of wisdom. When the dam comes through the door, slipshod methods go out of the window. It marks the beginning of better dentistry. Absolutely. But today, it marks the beginning of necessary dentistry. If you have to do anything inside the mouth, you will have to isolate. This is the original definition for coffer dam. Rubber dam and coffer dam are the same thing, but the terms are taken from different languages. So usually a rubber dam is a very thin latex sheet. Now you have non-latex rubber dams also, we'll come to that. In a size of 12.5 by 12.5 centimeters, that's about 6 by 6 inches, and used for isolating the operating field inside the mouth. You have a pediatric rubber dam also, that's 5 by 5 inches. And you can punch areas where you want to isolate teeth. This sheet is then fixed inside the mouth with the use of clamps, and it is held in place with the use of a frame. This is the historical perspective. 1864 was the year where actually rubber dam started. Dr. S.C. Barnum in the year 1864 came up with the idea of using a punch sheet of rubber and pulling it over the tooth that he was treating. So 1864, that's how old this is. More than 150 years, and we still are finding reasons as to why we will not use the dam. So this was ages ago, friends. Like I said, faults and defaults, all I can only look at are possible advantages. The advantages could be the protection of oropharynx, so you do not have instruments that might get aspirated, providing a clean and dry environment, and in today's time, protecting you, like there, protection of the dental personnel is also important. Disadvantage, I do not see any real disadvantages. All I see are reasons where you tell that it takes extra time, it takes some extra costs. A rubber dam application hardly costs you 100 rupees if you do the best rubber dam application also. Even the best rubber dams that you use should cost you 36 to 50 rupees per sheet, and your kit is a one-time investment. So I don't believe that is an extra cost for you to say that I need to charge that from the patient. Yes, it is a learning curve. You cannot put the rubber dam the same way the first time as you will be putting it on the 50th time. So this is something that requires practice, but this is something that is needed now. Or you need to be ready to deal with this. Endo file could be aspirated by the patient and you could be into legal concerns. Or this, look at the file there. It has gone into the stomach, and now it is the patient had to be taken in for surgery and that file had to be removed. But now you have to ready to deal with this also. So you have to be ready to deal with the virus also. And this for me is one of the ways you protect yourself. I look at indications and contraindications. For me, everything in dentistry can be done under a rubber dam. You have scanners also today which can scan teeth. So you don't even need to make an impression anymore. You can scan teeth by using a rubber dam. So for me, rubber dam is for everything in dentistry. But there are a set of contraindications or relative contraindications. One of them is initially when the patient is allergic to latex. Up until 6 months before, we never had latex rubber dams freely available in India. So this was one of the reasons where you would ask the patient, do you have rubber allergy? And then you would have to move to a non-latex dam. But now I think iDent has Sanctuary non-latex dams. You have non-latex dams from Holting. So a lot of companies available. I think you also have non-latex dams from Click Dental. So you have non-latex dams that are available freely, and you will use it in selective patients, obviously. And the second problem that you could have as a contraindication is, yes, asthmatic, and if the patient has an upper respiratory tract infection. In a mouth breather, I mentioned that, but in a mouth breather, you can still get away by punching a big hole in the rubber dam and putting and allowing the patient to breathe through that. You can put a syringe so that the patient can breathe through it. So that is also a relative contraindication. Transient bacteremia, is that could be a contraindication because your rubber dam clamp might introduce the bacteria deeper into the tissues. You might injure the tissues. And active orthodontic treatment, again, for me, even that today is a relative contraindication. This is the AAE position statement. This was meant for endodontics, but today for everything in dentistry, you need a rubber dam. Anywhere you want to bond, for me, bonding cannot happen without the rubber dam. You will have saliva leaking in from somewhere, and you will never be able to maintain a dry field. Like I said, today orthodontics, active orthodontics is not a real contraindication. It is a relative contraindication where you could also put a split dam there, or if you actually have to isolate like that, you just need to take the wire off, and then you can use a little more flexible dam, and you should be able to isolate this also. Let's look at the armamentarium needed, and about 5 more minutes and we start off with the videos. So what all do you need for a proper application? You need a rubber dam sheet, obviously. You need a set of clamps. You need a hole punch to punch hole through that sheet. You need a template so that it guides you to where you need to punch the hole. You need clamp forceps because this allows you to place the clamp onto the tooth and remove it after you're done. You need a frame because the rubber dam frame will hold the entire thing in place. You need some accessories like dental floss, a removing scissors you need to cut through the dam when you remove it, liquid dam for additional protection. We'll look into all of this. This is my usual tray setup. I will come back to this at the end of my session, wherein you understand what all are placed there. The first thing that you need is a rubber dam sheet. You can divide it based on thickness. It can be divided into thin, medium, and heavy. The medium is the most widely used rubber dam. The main features as to a good quality sheet would be the fact that it is elastic. It doesn't tear even when you pull it into thin thickness, and it is easy to clean and dry. These are the rubber dam sheets from different companies. You can see at the bottom there, I have the non-latex dam from Coltene. It is textured also. Then you have latex dams from Nictone, from Sanctuary. The black dam there in the middle is mostly for photography because you have better contrast when you use a black dam. My go-to dams would be the blue dam from Nictone or the green dam on top from Nictone. Both of these come in pastel shades, so they do not disturb your eye. All rubber dam sheets come in like a shiny part, and then one of the surfaces is dull. That dull surface needs to face you. The shiny surface needs to face the tissue surface. Like I said, based on thickness, you can divide it into thin, medium, heavy. You have extra heavy also from some companies, but thin, medium, and heavy is what is generally used. I've listed the indications of use for each and also the problems that can happen with each. For a thin, you can maximum use it for single tooth isolation, but even then it tears very quickly. So your go-to rubber dams would be medium in case of single tooth isolation and quadrant isolation. In case you want additional gingival retraction also, at that time you will be looking at a heavy dam problem. But the problem is a heavy dam cannot be passed very easily through very tight contacts. So you need to check the contacts first as to whether they are tight or loose, and then you may need to loosen the contacts before you pass a heavy dam. Like I said, based on the material, you have latex versus non-latex. On the left side, the clinical picture shows you a non-latex dam. It is not made of rubber, it's non-latex. It is very flexible. This is the Flexi dam from Coltene. And you get non-latex dam, like I said, from Sanctuary also available now. And then you have textured versus non-textured, again, for photography mostly. For you probably at working, it doesn't matter whether it is textured or non-textured, but for photography and for the fact that a non-textured looks slightly more elegant. And based on elasticity, as you can see there, the thin kind of stretches very quickly. So it is yes, most elastic, but it can also tear very quickly. And the heavy gives you a lot of spring back. So in case of periodontally compromised teeth, please use a medium dam or a thin dam. Do not move to a heavy because you can actually see some tooth movement that might happen. Let's look at clamps, rubber dam clamps, because that is the most important part of a rubber dam set. You've got various companies. You've got KSK as a company which makes 77 different types of clamps. You've got Hygienic as a company which makes these winged clamps. What should I be buying and where should I be using what? Let's go through that. let's first understand that the rubber dam clamp is the material or the thing that is used to place the rubber dam in place. It's used to secure the dam onto the tooth and also slightly retract the gingival tissues. You do not get a lot of retraction with a regular rubber dam clamp. You have additional retractors for that. It has 4 parts. It has 4 prongs like these. So these are the 4 prongs, and then it has a bow that connects the 2 sides. So this, if it's a tooth, this is where you want your clamp to be sitting. You need to have a 4-point contact on all surfaces and the bow to be usually present distally. Then under the clamps, you have 2 types. One is the winged clamps. These are the wings of the clamp. So you have the winged type of clamps, and the other would be wingless clamp. The winged clamps provide extra retraction of the rubber dam away from the operating field. The wings are passed through the punched holes on the dam, and then the assembly is placed onto the tooth. So this is done outside the mouth. You will see a video there where when you use a winged clamp, you get the assembly set up outside the mouth, and then the entire assembly is carried onto the mouth and onto the tooth. Whereas in a wingless clamp, you do not have the wings. First thing, see there, they are smooth. You do not have the wings, and you need to place the clamp first onto the tooth, and then the rubber dam is glided over it. So for a winged clamp, you would use the clamp and the dam together. For a wingless clamp, you would use the clamp first onto the tooth and then the rubber dam over it. Now, based on the areas of use, you have different types of clamp. I like this color coded set from Fiesta for a starter, because this color coding tells me what kind of a clamp it is. You get an instruction sheet along with this, which tells you what to be used where. In general, the bigger clamps are supposed to be used for the molars. The smaller ones are to be used for the premolars, and these clamps are supposed to be used for anteriors. So this is the sheet that comes along with it. So you have number 9 and W9, which is wingless 9. These 2 are to be used for the anteriors. You have clamps for premolars. You have clamps for molars, and then you have serrated clamps, which are called as tiger clamps. We'll see about this. You have serrated clamps down there, which you will be using for partially erupted or supra-erupt or buccal erupted teeth, and these come as a pair. Right? Look at the pair, 12A and 13A. So these come usually as a pair. Then you have clamps from KSK. This is the clamp set that you get from KSK. You have 2 anterior clamps, you have 3 premolar clamps, you have 2 small molar clamps, and 5 different types of molar clamps that come in as a set. So buy the set. Winged or wingless is your personal preference. I prefer to buy the wingless clamps and then take my rubber dam over it. You can keep 2 winged clamps in your armamentarium just for the posteriors and single tooth isolation, but mostly wingless clamp is what is my go-to. It's a personal preference. If you like the winged clamps, if you like to do it outside the mouth and then take it in, it's up to you. But I prefer the wingless clamp, and I will place my clamp first and then put the entire isolation in place. Then you could also divide the clamps into being active versus passive. If you look at passive clamps, the clamps there are flat. The beaks there are flat. So they will sit onto the tooth surface. But if you look at active clamps, the beaks are pointed downwards. That means these go down to further retract the gingiva. So these are also called as gingival retractors. So these are also called as gingival retractors, and the set that I have and I use is a gingival retraction set from Brinkers. You have 6 clamps. Unfortunately, in India, Brinkers is not sold separately, but this is the set that is sold, in which you have B1, B2, B3. You have B4, which is the most widely used clamp by me. In fact, if you can see in the picture, I have 1, 2, and I think 3, or I have about 4 B4s that I have. So 2 are placed in the picture. B4 is the most commonly used clamp, and the rest 2, B5 and B6, are usually for anterior cases. So these are additional retractor clamps. These will only be an additional retraction. You cannot, in most conditions, cannot use this as your primary clamp. Then you have special clamps. We will see the working of each clamp in the videos. You have special clamps, which are tiger clamps. These have teeth-like projections. Now these teeth-like projections here hold on to partially erupted teeth like a grasp, so that the clamp doesn't slip. Normally, the clamp goes and sits below the height of contour. But in a partially erupted tooth or a tooth which is buccally or lingually erupted, you might not have a path of insertion and it might not sit below the height of contour. For them, you will need tiger clamps. These are usually sold as a pair. You will need a pair of 12A and 13A. And if you see, this is the side that will go buccal. The larger side goes buccally. The other side goes palatal or lingually. So this is how your clamp should be selected in case of a tiger clamp. And then you have the Haller clamp. This is supposed to be used in case of the unerupted or a partially erupted, or in case you're just not able to put a clamp in the upper 7 especially, and sometimes in the lower 7s also, which are totally erupted towards the cheek. This clamp clamps on the premolar and provides lateral retraction posteriorly. Let's look at some cases. If you look at a case like this, I have B1. So B1 is my brinker, but that is only for additional retraction. That's not my primary clamp. And I had to do a MO on the 7, a mesial cavity on the 7. It would have been difficult if I would have had a normal clamp there. It would have been too cluttered, and I would never be able to put my class 2 matrix there. So in this case, I opted for a Haller clamp, which gave me additional retraction laterally. So I was able to work now. Look at this case. The 8 is hindering placement of the clamp, and it was very difficult to place clamp on the 7. And because of the spring back that I would get from the rubber, the clamp would just fall off. So just to hold the clamp and to hold the spring of the rubber, I placed a Haller clamp there, and I was able to finish off my restoration. This case is probably the most ideal case for a Haller clamp. If you look at working on a distal of the upper 7, if I put a clamp there, I will never be able to work properly because that will interfere with the placement of the head of my aorta. So this has given me lateral retraction, and I was now able to isolate, clean, and fill the distal part of the 7 also. Now coming to a rubber dam frame again are of 2 types or 3 types. A Young's frame, which is Young's and the Ashpattern both are U-shaped frames. They have these little projections on the outside where your the rubber dam sheet would go and fix. And the rubber dam frame of Young comes in metal and plastic both. So you can select metal or plastic. Plastic is advantageous in case you want to take an X-ray. The metal would not interfere with you taking an X-ray or overlap on your radiograph. The Ashpattern is similar to the Young's frame, but it is usually suited for children. The other type of frame that comes is the Nygaard-Osby frame or the Svenska NO frame. These are circular types. These are suitable for taking radiographs, like I said, made of plastic. And they come as a foldable variant too. You have the foldable rubber dam frame there. So you can fold the frame from one side, put your intraoral sensor, and then shoot a radiograph. So that is possible only with a foldable rubber dam. Otherwise, you would have to take the rubber dam off and then place the sensor there. If you look at a rubber dam punch, they are also coming of 2 different types. One is Ainsworth, which has a punch which is centered like that, and on the punch you will have 5 different types of holes which you can use. The largest hole is usually for the lower molars and the upper molars. The last 2 holes, the largest and the number 4 hole, would be for the molars. The next 2 would be for premolars, and then the front 2 would be for incisors, anterior and upper incisors. Again, once you get used to using this, you will understand that you generally need, if you have a good sheet, you generally need 1 hole shot. You have another type, which is the ivory type. It has a single hole punch. So you just have 1 single hole for all teeth. Then you have the rubber dam forceps. This is used to carry the clamp from outside to inside the mouth, or in case you are using a winged clamp, you will carry the entire assembly inside the mouth. Now then you have a rubber dam template. You get these ready-made templates along with the rubber dam sheet from Sanctuary. You get them from Ufridi, you get them from a lot of companies, even GDC provides this. Or you can buy the pack dam. A pack dam is a modification of a regular rubber dam template, but with this pack dam, you should be able to isolate all teeth. If you look, this is the upper quadrant that has been marked, the upper arch. This is the lower arch, one quadrant marked. This is for the anterior isolation. This would be for single tooth isolation. You have lots of videos on the PAC dam. You can have a look at it on YouTube, or I will also put up a video of the PAC dam in use. Then you will need certain accessories to go with the rubber dam. The first thing that you would need is a water soluble jelly to lubricate the holes before you put them. Also, you will need wedges to sometimes hold the rubber dam at the distal most places or even the anterior most place. You might not want to use 2 clamps. You will need a scissor to remove the rubber dam after you've done. You will also need rubber dam napkins to be placed below the rubber dam, because some of these are powdered, especially the latex ones are powdered, and that might cause allergies in the perioral area to some patients. So you might not need a rubber dam napkin in all cases, but it is always better. And also the saliva that seeps from the side, the napkin would absorb that saliva. You also need liquid dam, like there, cool dam from Pulpdent. This is for additional sealing into some small areas where your rubber dam is not able to seal. And you will definitely need a floss to floss through the contacts. So this is my general table setup for all my cases. If you look, I have the PAC dam there. I have a regular template or a regular template to punch holes. I also have the PAC dam. I have liquid dam there. These are different types of sheets that I have. Down onto the left side, this is my KY jelly. This is glycerin 18% Dew Storm. You can use this. You can use KY jelly also. I have dental tape there. This is the rubber dam punch from GDC. This is the forceps. These are wedges additionally if I need them. The only thing that is missing there is a pack of Teflon. Today I would also use Teflon to get additional retraction. Then the clamps placed on the top are my molar clamps. The first 2 are the wingless clamps, and all others are winged. Sorry, the first 2 are winged clamps and the other 3 are wingless clamps. The wingless clamp are from the Coltine series. So I know which clamp would fit where, because it is this color that guides me. The next line is usually for premolars. Again, 2 winged clamps and 3 wingless clamps for the premolars. The last here is for anteriors, and the clamp here is a modified 212 clamp where I have cut the clamp from one of the sides, and so that I do not, if I want to just isolate one tooth, the other side is not hindering in me placing my fingers or placing my aerotor. The clamps here are retractor clamps. These are the B4 clamps, like I said, 3 B4s and 1 additional retractor for the anteriors in case I need them. So this would be a final set of retractor clamps. The clamps on the right side are special clamps. Plastic clamps on the extreme right. One is the molar plastic clamp and the other is a premolar. We will see the use of both of these, and the Haller clamp in cases I need them. These 2 are my frames. If I am doing endodontics mostly, then I use the plastic frame because I will be taking x-rays when I do endo. Otherwise, my go-to frame would be a metal frame because it's easier to place a metal frame. Also, the rubber dam holds better. So with this, my table setup is ready. And now let's look at videos slowly one by one. There are a set of 10 or 11 videos that you understand how will you use a rubber dam with. The first thing is that you will need to secure the clamp. See, there are instances where you stretch the clamp so much, and by reusing the same clamp, that the clamp might break into 2 and the patient might aspirate. So to protect that, you need to tie floss and secure the clamp before you start. This has to be done for all clamps. I'm just showing this video for one clamp, but you have to do it mandatorily for all clamps that you use in the mouth. Let's look at this video. Okay, so this is the first video of how you will tie a floss on your rubber dam clamp. Okay, so you take large enough floss, first pass it through the first hole, take it out, now tie a knot here. You can do a double knot if in case you want to. Make it as a double knot so it doesn't fly. Now you will pass this floss through the bow of the clamp. From one side to the other, pass it through the bow of the clamp. Now take the other end and pass it through the other hole. You can tie a knot here also in case you want to, or you can now continue and pass it through the hole again. So now this is the part that will be outside the patient's mouth. In case the clamp slips, you will be able to grip it and pull it out. Please do that for all your cases. All your clamps need to be secured with a floss before you start doing. Let's look at the second video in this series, which will be clamp selection for posterior teeth especially. How would you select a clamp and what fits the best? Because there's not one single clamp that will fit all teeth. So you will have to custom select your clamp for every tooth inside the mouth. Okay, so now in this video, we will be looking as to how you will select a clamp. If you see the series of clamps that have been placed here, I have placed the molar clamps on top, next the premolar clamps, the anterior clamps, and then this final series is for additional retraction. So these are the retractor clamps. What is most important when you select a clamp is the fact that the clamp should have a 4-point contact with the tooth surface. It should not be large, neither it should be impinging onto the gingiva. So if you select any clamp, you pick the clamp up. So this is a tiger clamp from KSK. This is usually for unerupted or partially erupted teeth. You take this clamp and you always check for fit. The first thing that you do is check for fit. So when you remove the clamp, the forceps, the clamp should be sitting tightly onto the tooth surface without moving much. So the clamp, then you look at whether it has a 4-point contact, like in this case it has. So this would be my ideal clamp if I am looking to clamp this tooth for a single tooth isolation. Let's now look at selecting a premolar clamp. Now premolar clamps, what I dislike about premolar clamps are the fact that they are slightly made larger for especially mandibular premolars. Here is a maxillary premolar. So I would get a very nice fit onto the maxillary premolar with a number 2 clamp, which is supposed to be a premolar clamp. As you can see, I have a very nice fit. But if you still see, the clamp is larger than the tooth at the neck. It is not designed to fit the tooth at the neck. So I prefer the 00 clamp. Yes, the number 00 clamp that is made by K series, and this goes in and fits onto actually the tooth. If you now look at the tooth neck, the clamp fits perfectly onto the tooth neck and it doesn't sway much. So this is an ideal clamp for premolars. This is a winged clamp. If you are looking at a wingless clamp also, you get a wingless clamp which is almost like a 00 called the W2 from the series that we selected. So you can take the W2 and this also fits pretty well. But still, for the premolars, my favorite clamp is the 00. This also is fitting pretty well. But if you notice again on the parietal side, this is slightly larger than the tooth. But yes, get the job done better than a number 2A clamp. Okay, so that was the second video. We will now understand the use of the template and a punch. How would you use a template and guide the holes for a single tooth isolation and also for a quadrant isolation? So imagine we are isolating the second quadrant here. Imagine this to be the patient, so this is the second quadrant that you are isolating, or you are isolating this entire quadrant. So ideally, your hole punches, if you are isolating an entire quadrant, would be from 7, 6, 5, 4, and I would isolate till 3 if I'm isolating the entire quadrant. But if I'm doing just a single tooth isolation, I would take the number 6 if I'm doing the isolation in there, and I would mark it. Now, if you notice the template, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we are working in the second quadrant. So this is my area of working when I'm working. When I'm isolating a single tooth, I might just make a hole exactly in the center, and I can isolate. That should be done. But if I'm isolating an entire quadrant, I would first want to mark my quadrant up. So this shows that this is the side which goes up and it will face the nose. And then I would be isolating from 7, 6, 5, 4, and up to 3. So this is my entire quadrant isolation that I'll be doing for 5 teeth. 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3. Now after you've marked, take a marker and mark them nicely. Once you've done that, you need to pick up punch, rubber dam punch, and I like to keep the punch as to one hole small. So let's first look at isolating a single tooth. I will first just punch the number 6, and then we will come from there to isolating the entire quadrant. So isolating for a single tooth, you will select the biggest possible hole, go on to the rubber dam sheet, and in one single punch, you should be able to take out the rubber dam hole. So now the rubber dam hole, once you made a hole, always see whether the hole has been made uniform, and it should not have any shredded ends. Okay, so now that you've punched the hole also, let's look at how you would isolate a single tooth. Now for a single tooth isolation, you can also use a winged clamp, especially if you're doing endodontics here. But for restorative dentistry, I would prefer to isolate the entire quadrant. I would never isolate a single tooth for restorative dentistry, even if I am just doing a class 1. It's always better to isolate the entire quadrant. Easier for you to work when you have a distal tooth that is isolated, so you have a lot more working space. But in case it's a single tooth isolation, like for endodontics, you can go ahead and use a winged clamp also. The advantage with a winged clamp would be that it would give you some additional retraction laterally also. Let's look at the winged clamp isolation. So always, whenever you isolate a single tooth or even a quadrant, the first thing that you shall be doing is check for the contacts. Always check whether the contacts are free or if there is something that is hindering your contact. So in this case, the contacts look relatively free. Yes, I have a slight hindrance at the distal end, but I think I can take care of that. So you just need to check whether the contacts are free and there is no calculus or a previous field restoration that is objecting your placement of the clamp. So like in the previous video, we've selected the tiger clamp, and this is the clamp that you will be using. Now this video, you will be using the clamp, the frame, and the rubber dam all together and directly placed onto the tooth. So all things in place will be fitted outside and it will just be placed onto the tooth. Now, when you are doing such a thing, always mark the tooth, so that when you enter afterwards, you go on to the same tooth and not by mistake isolate the adjacent tooth. Once you've done that, the first thing that you do is check how your dam would be fitting, and your frame or your rubber dam bow, whether it goes distally, whether it goes mesially, and accordingly you will pass it through the rubber dam. So in this case, my bow would be going distally. Stretch it as much as possible at the max, and now you pass it through the rubber dam sheet, through the hole that you've made. So through the hole, these are the wings of the clamp. This helps us in holding the rubber dam sheet when we are taking it inside the mouth. So you take the wing on one side, you pass it through the wing on the one side, and then take it on to the other side, and this is how it is holding on to your rubber dam. Now you take the entire assembly, take it inside the mouth to the selected tooth that you selected, Once it is held in place, you can take off and now select a probe and take the rubber sheet slowly away from the wings. Once the entire thing is in place, you can now go ahead and place the frame. I like to place the frame afterwards, after the entire isolation has been done, because I can now pull my rubber dam sheet. Now, you can also place the frame outside and take the entire assembly into the mount. That is also a possibility, but I like to do it this way. At the end, I place the frame because it gives me a little more motion, and the frame would be fitted onto the jaw. Now, one last thing that you do after this is pick the floss, pass it through the distal end of the bow, let it come in from there, and make sure that the rubber dam is sitting in properly, like that. Once you do that, it passes through the contact, and now it is holding in perfectly. Now, sometimes even after doing this, let me take away the frame because this is not stable here. So once you've done this, sometimes you might notice that there is a little leak still, that the rubber dam is not sitting in perfectly. Now there are two ways to manage this. In the first way, what you can do is you can hold the sheet down. Now you can just move or twist the rubber dam clamp from one side, release it from one side, so that the sheet just comes in, and then you can now seat the clamp onto the sheet. Something like that. If you still find this to be slightly difficult initially, then you can use something called as a liquid dam. Here you can use liquid dam. Comes in from different companies. This is from Philips. This is from Ultradent. So you can use the liquid dam and now isolate the entire tube slowly. You can put the liquid dam, it flows in like a flowable composite. You can place it there, place it onto the other side. Once you are done, you can take the light cure and light cure the liquid dam. This is a light curable barrier. Once it has been light cured, you are now sure that there is no leakage. There will not be any salivary leakage or any leakage from your side. Whether you use hypo to irrigate the tube, there will not be any leakage that goes inside the mouth. This leakage-free area is very important. A badly placed dam is better than is actually worse than not placing the dam at all. Right, so remember this, an improperly placed dam is worse than not placing it at all. So learn how to place a rubber dam outside the mouth first, and then place it inside the mouth and make sure that there is no leakage. So now that you've learned how to isolate a single tooth, let's look at how you would isolate an entire quadrant. How you would use a wingless clamp and then isolate the entire quadrant. For the entire quadrant, like I said, I prefer a wingless clamp, but you could also use a winged clamp, place it inside the mouth, and then stretch the rubber dam over onto the other teeth. Let's look at this video. Okay, so now in this video, we will be isolating the entire quadrant. I have already punched the holes. I'm using the same sheet like in the previous video. I have already punched the holes from 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3. They've been punched using the hole punch. And the first thing that I do when I'm doing quadrant isolation is that I like to use wingless clamps. I do not like to use winged clamps. So when I'm doing the quadrant isolation, I like my wingless clamps. This is an upper molar clamp or a universal molar clamp from Polteen. I would first check the fit of the clamp on my 7, because I always want to clamp one tooth or as much as possible the distalmost tooth inside the quadrant. Now if you look, the clamp kind of fits okay, stable. So this will be my selecting clamp for this case. Now in this, the clamp is placed first inside the mouth. So you place the clamp inside the mouth and then you will pass on the rubber dam sheet. But once you selected the clamp, put it aside and check for contacts. Remember the same thing like we did in the previous video. This is all the more important here because your rubber dam sheet has to pass through all contacts without troubling you. So it has to pass through all contacts from one end to the other. Check for contacts till the canine like we've decided. Now in this case, you see there is a peg lateral here. In this video, if I'm isolating till the canine, I have a peg lateral here. I would have a big gap here. So it will be sensible to either go till the central incisor or stop till the first premolar. But then that totally depends as to the number of teeth that I'm working. If I have caries from 7 to 4, right from my second molar to my first premolar, then I will have to go till the central incisor, possibly go to the other side also if needed. So the longer you isolate, the better chances of inversion are present. Let us stick to isolating from 7 to 3, and here we will use an additional clamp to hold it onto the canine, like a retractor there. So the first thing that you do now is place back the clamp. So the clamp has been placed there. And now, once you've punched the holes, you can use some lubricant jelly. Always use a water-soluble lubricant. This is glycerine. So you can lubricate the holes nicely. Water-soluble because Vaseline has some oils which may interfere with the bonding procedure in case you're doing composites. And the first thing that you do is pass it through the distalmost bow or the distalmost tooth. And that's it. It is holding on to the distalmost tooth. Now just pull it. Knife it through the edges. So the beauty of the good rubber dam sheet would be the fact that it will not tear and it should be able to knife through the contacts. Go till the canine first. Yes. Once you've gone till the canine, now if it is not very stable on the canine, the first thing that you do is pick up another clamp. Let us pick the 00 clamp, which is a premolar clamp, and see if it fits on the canine. Pick another clamp, put it onto the frontalmost tooth. So your isolation is almost complete. All you have to do is now pass the rubber dam through the contacts, like that. Use a nice floss, and you shall be able to pass it through all the contacts. Remember, these are contacts that you've checked; they are free. Rubber dam should pass through them, and you applied some glycerine or water-soluble lubricant to aid in your movement. You might have to pass the floss once or twice. It might not happen at once, so you just have to pass it through every contact repeatedly till you are satisfied that it has moved beyond the contacts. Now if you look, my rubber dam here is inverted. That means it is not inverted. Remember, my Gingiva here is inverted, but my rubber dam is inverted. So you can use a sharp probe, run your rubber dam sheet along the sharp probe, ask your assistant to blow a 3-way syringe air from there. So use a 3-way syringe, blow air. I do not know if that will be possible post-COVID. So just very carefully run it along. You might have to repeatedly do this a couple of times so that the gingiva now gets inverted. Do it on the other side also, onto the lingual side also, lingual or palatal, whichever. Do it onto the other side also. And now sometimes you may have to pass the floss again. Look at this contact here. So repeat passing the floss through the contacts, and you have an inverted rubber dam area everywhere. Not just the buccal, but also on the palatal. This is how your rubber dam isolation would more or less look. You see this molar here? We will use a floss tie again because I will need to further go down since I have a class 5 lesion here. Okay, give me just a minute because my Mac shows battery draining. I just need to put it on charge. Just a minute. It should be ready. Okay, so the charger is also set. So now for additional retraction, like you saw in the video, in the molar area, I have a class 5 also that I will be dealing with. So I will need some further retraction. Just the rubber dam was not enough to give me enough retraction of or vision of the class 5. So let's look at how do you do additional retraction using a floss tie. If you guys have a floss near you, please pick it up and learn how to make a floss tie right now with the video. Or you can replay this video and then learn how to make a floss tie. I believe in the video I've shown you how to make a floss tie twice. So if you have a floss right now, pick it up. Okay, in this video, let's learn how to make a self-adjusting floss tie. So I usually like to select good enough floss. When you double it, it should probably be the size of your elbow. That's an approximation. You could take lesser also, but this is how I approximated initially. Now, hold the two free ends of the floss together in one finger. Yeah. Once you do that, the other side now forms like a loop. Pass your index finger and thumb through the loop, holding it like that. Now, grip the two free ends and make a sort of a loop like that. Right? Once this loop is made, again, look at the loop. Again, through this loop, pass your index finger and thumb and hold the free ends again. Make a second loop. This is how you make a second loop. This now is a self-ligating floss. Look at that. This is a self-ligating, a self-adjusting floss. So you can open it, take it off from your fingers. You can pull it away, and it becomes bigger. And with the single finger, you will be able to close it closer. Now let's apply that to our patient here. Like we thought, we will isolate the molar for the class 5 lesion. We need some additional retraction. So let's pass the floss tie through one of the contacts. Now let's pass it through the other contact. Once this is done, your assistant now will be holding this end very closely and pressing it against the gingiva. Once he's doing that, your job here is now to pull the floss. I need an assistant. Right. So you pull the floss and it should self-ligate itself. Let's assume that the assistant is not needed right now. And self-ligate. Notice how it is self-ligating or self-closing. And I will now pull the gingiva down. Look at the amount of additional retraction I was able to get. Initially, my rubber dam was still here and I was not able to see the area below the class 5 lesion. If I can mark the class 5, if it is not visible, I'll just mark the class 5 here. So this is the class 5 defect and I was not able to see this margin clearly. When I put an additional retraction using a floss tie, that is the amount of additional retraction I am able to get and my vision is clear. After you do this, you can cut off the excess because you don't need it. You can cut off the excess. You can continue to use floss ties in the entire quadrant if you want. A floss tie can also be used instead of a second clamp. I will show you some cases where I generally do not like to use a second clamp. I like to use a floss tie here to hold the space, or a wedget. A wedget is nothing else but a piece of rubber, or you could also cut an end from your rubber dam sheet, the free end. You could cut an end and use this. Just showing you as a wedget here. That will also hold the quadrant isolation in place. So I do not need a separate dam, or I do not need a separate isolating place. This could be my isolation and it could be holding that in place. If I want further retraction on one of the premolars. Look at the floss tie again. Hold the free ends in your finger, hold them tightly. Now at the other end, pull the strings apart and hold this. Now pull it close. Once you pull it through the loop, you will form another loop here. This is the loop that will be formed. Again, put your index finger and thumb through the loop. Hold the free end and pull it so that you form a second loop on top of the first loop. Once you do that, this is like a double knot now. Look at how tightened that knot is. This is like a double knot. You will now take this, pass it over the neck of the tooth, around the contact area, one end, the other free end, pass it through the other contact. You might have to sometimes make this larger and then, yeah, pass it through the other end. And now start to pull this. So this, just make sure you don't catch the rubber like I have. Just pull it down when you're doing it and pull it. This allows additional retraction on the gingival side. Also, this allows you to look at how nicely inverted my rubber dam is. To invert your rubber dam sheet into the sulcus. You can cut off the excess like we did in the previous video. You just cut off the excess and your floss ties are ready. If you want, you can push this floss tie inside the gingiva. A little more retraction would be possible. So you push it in. Now you have a very nicely placed rubber dam, a quadrant isolation, along with floss ties and additional retraction for your class 5s. So if I have to do a class 5 here, there is my additional retraction and I have the margins. Then I can always tuck this in. I have my margins of my class 5 clearly visible. I can again take this and tuck it back in. So I have the margins of my class 5 clearly visible. So this is how you isolate for a quadrant. We've gone through single tooth isolation, we've gone through isolation for a quadrant. You can also use the same method. You can use a wingless clamp and pass the rubber dam over the wingless clamp for a single tooth isolation also. I prefer to use wingless clamps more than the winged clamps because the wings of these clamps interfere with what I'm working at. Okay, so now that you've set up the entire quadrant and you've put your floss ties in place, you have everything pretty nicely visible. Sometimes you would want some more retraction. Sometimes a floss tie would not be enough, or say the carious lesion is extending below the gingival level, especially on the buccal side. You would want some additional retraction. For that, you can also use retractor clamps. We've been speaking of the active clamps, right? So these are the retractor clamps. Usually, I love the number 44 from KSK or B4 from Vickers. This is my go-to clamp for additional retraction. And watch the entire video because there is a little tip, and that tip is important as to how you balance these clamps. In this video, we will be looking at getting additional gingival retraction using the retractor series or the retractor clamps. My favorite retractor clamp is the number 44 or the number B4 from the Vickers. You can use this clamp where you feel your floss tie is not enough, or you feel you don't want to use a floss tie and you want still additional retraction. You can go ahead and use this clamp to retract the gingiva. Notice how nicely it is sitting to retract the gingiva. The only problem with these clamps is in certain areas these are not stable. Look at the clamp, it is absolutely not stable. So you cannot use this as your primary clamp. This can only be used as an additional clamp, and you can clamp the tooth and add some retraction. Again, I can press it a little more down in case I want to get some more retraction. Let's put one more B4 on the other premolar. So you always hold the clamp with the bow in the direction it has to go, and you put it along the tooth surface down there. So you will be able to get additional retraction using the clamps. And like I said, these are not very stable. You might have to add some impression compound here to make them stable, or you can add some cotton roll in case you are working on the class 5s. You can also add some composite to support it, but usually I prefer impression compound because that is more bulkier and it gives some more strength. So you need to be careful. This is stable enough. I'm okay with this, but if it is moving a lot, you might have to additionally reinforce these clamps. So this is the amount of retraction you get with these B4 clamps, and they work really good. Even in the posteriors, we will see the same in the anterior cases also, where I have to bond a veneer. So this is the use of stick compound or impression compound to balance the B4, and I was able to work. So as of now, you are all ready with a quadrant isolation also. Let us look at some special clamps as to where you would use them, especially the Haller and the plastic. Remember the setup that I showed you had the Haller clamp and a plastic clamp on the extreme right. So let me show you where you would use a Haller clamp and the plastic clamps or the plastic clamps. Now sometimes it so happens that the distalmost tooth, you need to isolate this tooth, but this tooth is actually a crown. A dental crown, you may have porcelain, you may have PFM, you may have any crown, but that might be a crown. In such cases, you cannot put your regular metal clamps since this metal might chip the porcelain. So for such cases, you have these special plastic clamps that come. You can use, these are from Indus Bello, you can use these clamps and you can use them, although not perfect, but you can use them for additional retraction and also as your last abutment. That means if you want to clamp the last abutment tooth, this can be used in cases this tooth has a crown. So these are special plastic clamps from Indus Bello. You also get premolar clamps in this. So in case the premolar also has a crown here and you would want to use it, you can use it on the premolar also. So in like here, you have, say, assume you have a crown here and you have the crown on both the premolars and you have to work on the distal aspect or the mesial aspect of the sixth. So the only option that you have is putting two plastic clamps, going ahead and working. So this is a clinical case using the plastic clamps. Molar and the premolar both are crowned, so I was forced to use a plastic clamp. Let's look at the use of a Haller clamp. Cases where the 7 is not properly erupted or this is partially erupted, I like the Haller clamp. Now this clamp sits on your premolar and spreads the rubber dam laterally. So you get much more space for working. Once I have done this, I can in fact take away the clamp from the 7 because this is enough to hold my rubber dam down right there, to hold my rubber dam down and yet give me big working space. Say I'm working on the distal of the 7. Sometimes the same clamp, the clamp that we were using, the bow of the clamp might interfere with my working. So I just take the clamp off, I place my Haller clamp, and this is the amount of working space that I get. So working on the distal of the 7 would make it very easy. Or if the 7 is supra-erupted or partially erupted towards the cheek, this is your go-to. That's the only answer that you have to get additional retraction there. Another way is again to put a floss tie there on the 7 so that the rubber dam is held very nicely. But you need to make sure that there is no class 2 because this floss tie might interfere with your class 2. So you can add a floss tie there for some additional retraction like that. And in case I am working on the gingival aspect of the 7, I have enough space to work on the gingival aspect of the 7, and my Haller clamp holds the rubber dam nicely in place. So I believe I've covered almost everything that you would be using in quadrant isolation. Now, a special thing that I wouldn't recommend before the time of COVID, but now because you would want to isolate yourself from the oral cavity also. So this is the split dam. Okay, so let's look at the video for a split dam. Now, where would I use a split dam? Say I have contacts to which my floss is unable to pass initially when I'm checking. So that means either I have a restoration that is overhanging In that cases, I will first use a split dam, remove all possible restorations, and then probably put another dam before I finally restore. So a dam will be on top of the other dam, one way. Second, I might use a split dam to probably remove a crown, which is here. So I might remove a crown on the 6 when I'm splitting the dam from the 7 to the 4. I might also use the case. I know my caries is subgingival, so I will have to do some gingivectomy interdentally. So I will first use the split dam, do my gingivectomy, do my prep, finish my prep, and then finally put another dam before I restore. So in this case, let's assume we are doing the split dam from 7 to 4. If you see here, I have marked up from 7, 6, 5, and 4. 4 holes have been marked. I have selected my clamp for the 7 and my clamp for the premolar. So the first thing that you do in a split dam is put the clamps in place. By the time you do this, your assistant is doing the holes and stuff ready. So you put the clamps in place, both the ones. Now there are two ways now. You might connect this outside and cut through a scissor, but what I like to do is first punch 2 holes, one on the 7 and one on the 4. So one on the distal most and one on the anterior most too. You go in and do 2 holes. Make sure your punch is clean. My punch was not clean, and that's why it left the rubber like that. Once you do that, now you can take a scissor and connect these two. Just connect these two, but go in the curve along the holes that you made. So your dam has been split. Now, when you put it inside the mouth, you first take it onto the distalmost tooth. This is very easy right now because it's all split. The dam can stretch up nicely, and you can put it up along both the areas. So your split dam is almost ready. Now the only problem here is the salivary leakage that will come through the split dam, through here. So for this, you can use a little liquid dam in these areas to seal it up. Use a liquid dam along, clamp in the anterior most place. You can use a liquid dam to seal it up. Once you do that, use a little more liquid dam to make sure nothing goes on to the gingiva and troubles it in the areas where you don't want to work. So you can use a little more liquid dam and seal it up. For the anterior cases, what I like to do is once I split the dam, I like to use the bite registration paste. The advantage is this sets up very quickly and you have a big palatal area that you would want to block. So if this is the palatal area that I am looking to block, you put it there and you wait for 30 seconds and this is almost set. Till that you get padded inside. So that this seals up the gingival and the palatal areas very nicely. In case of the anterior, I will show you some photographs that show you how this works. So once this is done, here you go, your split dam is ready. This is usually not worth for the posteriors, only for anteriors when I am doing a veneer bonding case. So I'm not worried about the palatal area, so this can take the rest on the palatal area and seal. In the buccal area, I can work along the veneer cases. So imagine this is the palatal area in the anterior, this is the anterior, and I'm just bonding the veneer here. So in that case, this will work very great. The bite registration case, or else for the posteriors, you can use the liquid dam. You can also use the flowable composite, or also you can use the light body. But the problem with the light body is it takes a lot of time to set, whereas the bite material sets very quickly. So this is a split dam. Say you are done with the preps. You can remove the liquid dam. You can keep the split dam on. You don't need to remove the split dam. You can keep the split dam on. And now you can place another rubber dam on top of this. Same holes to be punched. You can place another rubber dam on top of this, and that will go through the interdental spaces. And then you can go ahead and restore. So once you are done with the work, before you restore, you take off the split dam. Always make sure you invert these areas of the split dam down. So this will get rolled in very nicely. You can do that on the palatal side also. So make sure you rolled it in very nicely. you can add another dam on top of the split dam. So that's how dam on dam technique works. You can add another dam. I did not want to isolate the canine, but even if it does, you can just pull the rubber dam and click on. Like that. So you have your split dam in place. If I have to do my prep, say I'm doing a crown prep in today's times post-COVID. I will want to do, in case I'm doing a aerosol procedure, not right now, even after a few months, I would still want to do it under a rubber dam. So I have my rubber dam like a split dam in place. I can do it like this, do my prep. And now with the scanner, I can scan it under a rubber dam. You have scanners which are good enough to scan the prep under the rubber dam, and you can immediately send it to the lab. You just need to take off one of these clamps or probably both, just scan it and then send it to the lab. So you don't even have to take an impression and you can do the entire procedure. That's how you do a split dam. Thank you. So here's a clinical case using the split dam for the anteriors. As you can see, we've prepped the tooth and they are ready to be bonded now. In the palatal area, we have used the bite registration paste, and bingo, we have a very nice isolation with all control. I believe that was helpful. A couple of more videos to go and we shall be done for today. In this video, I would like to stress on the quadrant isolation that you've already done, and you can also use a split dam like I'll be using in the video and finish the entire quadrant in a single appointment. That is only possible with bioactive restoratives quickly. You can also do that with composites, but composites will take time. You need to etch, bond each surface, build up layer by layer if you still are a fan of layering. I do a lot of injection molding. I am the restorative guy who's introduced injection molding. So I do to India. So I do a lot of injection molding and I would want to finish off this quickly. Let's look at how you would finish this with bioactive. The only thing that I like about bioactive resins is the fact that these can be bulk filled. So I do not have to stop at each step and then light cure. I do not have to do 2 millimeter dentistry. I can just fill it at one go, light cure, and I am good. Let's look at the video. So as you can see here, I have done my class 1 preps, class 2 preps, a class 5 prep there, a class 2 prep on the premolar, everything under the split dam. The split dam was on all the while I finished my preps. Now we will go ahead and restore this using Bioactiva. In this final video, we will be restoring the entire quadrant using Bioactiva, bioactive resin. If you see here, I have isolated the entire area using the split dam again. I have placed my matrices in place, placed the rings in place. These are BioClear matrices and rings in place. So we can go ahead and finish the entire quadrant. What I like about this Bioactiva tip is the fact that this is a metal tip which can be pre-bended. I can just place it at the depth of the cavity and finish the entire restoration in one go. Both of these, then I can also finish my class 1s. Finally, I can take this off. I have enough time. I can take this off. I can finish the class 5 there. So that's the biggest advantage with Bioactiva. You will be quick. You will finish off the entire thing very quickly. Now, after my Bioactiva restoration is done, this is my finishing protocol. This might not be perfect, but this is what I get a result with. So my finishing protocol includes a 12-fluted carbide burr initially, which I will use in an inverter at slow speed to do my gross finishing. Then I use a brownie point. Remember, these brownie points were actually used for our amalgam restorations. I will use them on a low speed micromotor handpiece, which has a fitting where I can put my friction grip also. So this will be used next to do the gross finishing. And then after that, I use the finishing spirals from Eve Twist, the polishing followed by polishing. And finally, to get a very high luster, I might use a diamond impregnated Rockstar polisher from the BioClear series. So let's look at first. After you've done the isolation, you would etch the entire area. So you put your etchant, you've dried, and now let's start with the bonding procedure. So etching done. I prefer a total etch method even with the Bioactiva. So I do my total etch, then I use my bond. If it's a total etch method, I like to use the 3-step, wherein step 1 would be etching, step 2 would be priming, dry it for 20 seconds. Then I will pick in adhesive again. So this will be the third bottle of the system. Adhesive there, placed in place, stays in place for 20 seconds at least. After the adhesive has been placed, you air dry, and now you can take your light cure and you can light cure the entire area, entire quadrant one by one, 20 seconds each. I'm not doing this for 20 seconds, this is just for demo purpose, but you will be doing 20 seconds each to all these areas. Once you are done with the bonding procedure, you can now pick Bioactiva, and notice I can turn the step as to what I want, wherever I want. You just fill it up. So you can fill up the respiration all at once. Finish this. Finish the class 2. Finish the class 2 on the other side. For people who like to sit and carve, you can also carve a meniscal anatomy using this. Meniscal anatomy don't go very deep, don't take a lot of time, it is a start to set. But yes, you have enough time to do your carving. If you like to carve the anatomy right here, or if you like I do, if you injection mold and like to finish the carving afterwards, you can do that. But if you want, you can do your carving here. You can take a sharp probe. You can take the instruments that you have and you can just carve out the basic anatomy. Once you're done with that, you can take the light cure and light cure each for 20 seconds, not light curing everything for 20 seconds. This is also a self-cure material. So in fact, if you don't light cure it, it will self-cure upon itself. Now, since you have enough time, quickly take this off. Take the wedge. Yes. And now you can spin off the matrix. The matrix, BioGlea matrix comes out very quickly and very easily. You can just take a tweezer and you can pull out the matrix. So you can take the tweezer, pull out the matrix. Once the matrix is done, you can keep it aside. And now you have enough time to even finish the class. Like this instrument, this is the gingival retractor, Meiner Sagan gingival retractor from U3D. You can hold the gingival retractor like this or the other way, but usually it is meant to be held this way. So you hold it like that. Ask your associate to now give you the Bioactiva resin. I'm sorry, I'm having to hold the model also here. So you just retract it like this, and you can take the Bioactiva resin. My assistant is helping me with it. Finish. So once you're done with that, you can now take an instrument and clear off the excess. Sorry, this is going a little messy, but you can now clear off the excess. You can take some more Bioactiva if you feel it is small, it is short. Add a little there. You can also use your micro brush like that. As you can see, the Bioactiva is almost starting to set. So, like I said, you can finish the entire thing off in one single visit. You can now take the light cure and start to light cure this. So this is almost set now, set and ready. So you can go ahead. See how nicely it is set. You can now go ahead and start the finishing procedure. So like I said, the first thing that I like to use is a 12-fluted carbide burr at slow speed. So 12-fluted carbide burr put into my handpiece, and this will be run at slow speed, say about 20 to 40,000 RPM, just to do the finishing procedure. Just marginate the entire thing, and this is a 12-fluted carbide burr. So don't go very deep, don't touch the tooth. Once you're done with this, you can now use a brownie point, the brownie point that we amalgams. You can use the brownie point and marginate the filling. You can also do this underwater, but you can notice now that the filling would get marginated very well. So you will not have any white lines around the filling. It will get marginated very well. Let me just take that off. White. Just to show you, let me take a wet wipe and wipe this off. The filling would get marginated very well, and after this, you would continue with the polishing procedure. So the first step would be use the Eve twist. Finisher, this is the pin followed by the base is reversed. Then take the pin polisher. This again helps in marginating and creating a very nice finish. A very nice finish there. And then finally you can use the polisher from Eve twist. Again. You should be getting a luster right there. You should be getting a very nice finished restoration. If you want, you can then use the Rockstar polisher, or you can use a diamond polishing paste. I like Enamelize from Pulpit. You can use Enamelize, you can use Diashine, and then use a diamond impregnated polisher to finally polish the restoration. So this is my steps where I would go to and finish the entire restoration in one day. In fact, if you notice, we finished the entire quadrant in a matter of a few minutes. So you've got all restorations in place. Please don't do that after COVID. So you've got all restorations in place. You can go ahead and finish these also. You've got all the restorations in place. You can take off the matrix and your quadrant is almost done. Let us do that. Let's take that matrix off. Matrix and the retainer off. Yeah, once you do that, you can. So that for me is the game changer in dentistry. You can finish the entire quadrant that quickly. It doesn't require a lot of finishing, polishing steps. It gives you a very nice finish, and the finish remains like that. Last but not the least, how do you remove the dam? You've done the entire thing. It's not just pulling the dam away from the mouth. There are steps to remove the dam. Let's see, how do you remove the dam also. In this final video, we will be looking at how to remove a rubber dam in the posterior series. So you first remove any clamps on the contralateral side. Once that is removed, you will first remove any additional retraction methods. So in case I have a B4 that has been applied onto the premolar for additional retraction, something like this. So the first thing that comes off is my B4, and then I will take off is my floss tine. For a floss tine, you can take a sharp probe very carefully, insert it between the tooth and the floss area, and you can pull it away. You can do that for the other also. By the time my assistant hands me over, you can also use a needle holder to pull the floss out. Once the floss is out, next you will remove the anterior most clamp. If it is clamped, just remove the anterior most clamp. After this, you will pull the rubber dam so that you can see all the areas where the rubber dam has entered into. Now take a scissor and cut through the dam. All interproximal edges should be taken off. Once this is done, you can now slowly lift your dam up and take it off from all the teeth. Again, like this, the dam might be stuck at some places. You will need to take the scissor again, carefully remove the rubber dam from there. And finally, you can take off the clamp on the distal most tooth also. Once you take it off, the rubber dam should be off. If it is stuck at certain places, take it off. Now, after you take off the rubber dam, put it on a sheet or put it on the table and check if there are any missing pieces. Like here, there is a missing piece. So that might have got stuck between the teeth. You will have to take a floss and floss out the missing piece. Okay, that there was a missing piece stuck there. You will have to take the floss. You will have to take the missing pieces out. Check again if there is anything left inside the mouth. Otherwise, now you can take an articulating paper and check whether the restorations that you've done are high or not. Okay, so with that, I come to the end of this how-to series on how to you will put a rubber dam and finish quadrant dentistry in one single visit. Like I said at the start, this is for the better. The fittest will survive the COVID times, and we will have ourselves coming out fitter, stronger, and healthier. As of the extended holiday, you can always do something you always wanted to, learn something new, and please talk to people. Talk to people for yourself, talk to people to help them, not just monetarily, but a single call and calling a little hi will go a long way in helping people. That's who I am. You can contact me over email, over my phone. You can always WhatsApp me. I might not reply immediately, but I will reply definitely. There is a Facebook page that I run, Aesthetics by Dr. Pratik Gupta, where I put up all my photographs, all my cases. You can have a look there. There are a lot more tips on the page for advanced isolation. And we run a training academy with Dr. Anshu Sachdeva in Hyderabad. Probably once the COVID time goes away, we shall be able to offer some rubber dam courses for anyone who's interested. At the outset, I would love to thank Future Dent and Dentoscope for inviting me to this session. I believe I'm done with my presentation, and I'm open for any question and answer sessions that are there.
Thank you
Dr.
so
Sameera.
much. Thank you so much, Dr. Pratik Gupta. You have really explained each and every step so meticulously. And from your video presentation, we could make out you have really worked very hard for this webinar. Before we go on to the question and answer session, I would just like I would like Dr. Anil Arora to make some announcements, and then we will proceed with the question and answer session.
Thank you, Sameera. Thank you so much. Am I audible to you?
Yeah, but there is echo happening.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, better.
Just give me a second. So thank you so much, Dr. Pratik. Really appreciate all the efforts that you have put in. It was a wonderful, though a very long presentation. Viewers, before we get on to the question and answer session, I just want to mention to you about the upcoming series of How To. Now, as I said earlier, that How To has been a very, very popular session in FAMDent shows. We have also covered in FAMDent publications. So we do have a full calendar of How To series, which will run from Wednesday, after today's event, of course. We will run from Wednesday and go right up to the first weekend of June. This is the next one, which will be happening, which is on Wednesday. Dr. Suchitan Pradhan. Most people who know about lasers in dentistry would have heard about Dr. Suchitan Pradhan. He is a very, very leading laser dentist, head of Hinduja Hospital. He's a celebrity dentist. He counts celebrities like Amitabh Bachchan as his patients. And we will look forward to his. And I'll just share the entire calendar also with you to give you an idea as to what you will be viewing in the next 3 weeks or so. I'm sorry, this is the same thing coming up. So there you go. Starting from Wednesday, Dr. Suchitan Pradhan, followed by Rohan Bhatt, Ratin Das, Dr. Shail Jaggi, Dr. Garima Poddar, Dr. Ritika Arora, Dr. Kuhu Mazumdar, Dr. Varsha Rao, Dr. Mahesh Agwani, and Dr. Harsh Shah. They will bring to you topics ranging from lasers to pediatric dentistry to endodontics to digitizing your dentistry, aesthetic dentistry, and how to read a CBCT, and of course, how can you incorporate Botox and dermal fillers in your dental office. So we are on now with the question and answer session, and Samira, if you can just
Yeah.
take some questions, please.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Dr. Pratik. So the first question is how to take X-ray with clamps on during the endodontic treatment.
The best way would be to have a foldable frame with you. The foldable frame was specially made in cases you want to take x-rays during the endo procedure. Otherwise, what I would suggest if you do not have a foldable frame is to punch a hole in the middle of the rubber dam sheet and always offset your rubber dam placement. Do not place it like you normally would. Say I'm working on the fourth quadrant, I would always offset my placement from the center. Two things that this allows is the patient to breathe from the side and also to place your sensor in place. But right now, because that wouldn't be advisable where the patient would be able to breathe, it is best if you have a foldable frame in place. You could fold the frame, put a sensor there, and then shoot an X-ray.
Okay. During cementation with rubber dam, how do we ensure that the crown or veneer is correctly seated in its place?
So the best thing to do in such cases would be to initially start off with a split dam, because once you have a split dam, you can still do your regular retraction like you would placing a retraction cord or placing some retraction paste and then being able to visualize the margin. Once you get the hang of it, you can then start to use retractors with a proper rubber dam isolation, like I've shown in a couple of videos there. You can use retractors and then you can see the margins properly. Sometimes, especially during indirect bonding, you might have to place a little separator in between two teeth so that the teeth separate and your indirect can go and sit in place.
Okay. So do you think that this placement of rubber dam can affect the complete positioning of the crown or veneer?
No, but if the tooth is periodontally compromised and say you start to use a heavy dam and the tooth starts to go slightly. So it is always better initially to use a split dam. So check for periodontal compromise on the teeth and then decide what you would want to do in that situation.
Okay. In case of crowded teeth, how are you going to place the rubber dam?
That's a very good question, because in case of crowded teeth, you will not be able to use the template that is provided. It will not be a template that is already there that you can use. The thing would be to take the rubber dam sheet inside the mouth and mark the teeth as they are placed in the jaw. So you place the rubber dam sheet inside the mouth, take a marker and mark. Now you would punch hole where center of each tooth and then place it inside the mouth. But choose the distalmost tooth on both the sides, which is not crowded, because it will be difficult to place the clamp.
Right. Okay. That's a good tip. Okay. The next question is, what is the criteria to decide which teeth to be clamped? And if in case there is any bridge, so can we put clamps on Pontic?
I would always clamp the distalmost tooth in the arch. That is a go-to, because you want space for your working vision and so that your aerotors or your hand instruments can come in. But in case you have a crown present on these teeth, you will need to use plastic clamps like I showed you in one of the video series. You will need to use plastic clamps. And in the anterior most area, you can go on to the other side also. So always increase the space of your rubber dam, increase the isolation, and then you will have enough working room so that you can put your crowns and stuff. You can also put a clamp on your Pontics like you asked, but you will need retractor clamps. You will not be able to put the regular clamps. The retractor clamps work best for these cases.
Okay. Do we need to anesthetize the tooth that we are putting clamp on?
If you are careful and you do not impinge on the gingiva, it is not needed to anesthetize, because the clamp will usually be sitting on the tooth. It will not be sitting on the gingiva. What you can do is apply some topical application of your gel, and it will be more than enough for single tooth isolation. But any which ways, for a single tooth isolation, you will mostly be doing it for an endo procedure, which would have been anesthetized anyway.
What is your take on Optradam?
Optradam, I actually had it here. Optradam is really good. The only problem that I have is the fact that the rubber here, the sheet is very thin and it tears easily. So for me in my clinic, I keep the Optradam for bleaching procedures because it is easy to put, and for single tooth procedures. Second, cost. You have an added cost okay, this is frameless, but this comes at around 120 or 130 rupees to the doctor, and then you still have to use the clamps. So that in that way, I would prefer it for bleaching cases and not for general dentistry.
Okay. So we need to put clamps on this Octradam also.
You will still need to put a clamp to clamp the tooth. You do not need a frame.
Right.
The hole will be marked there, so you just need to hole punch and then place it onto the tooth. You do not need a frame. This is frameless.
Okay. There's a question from Dr. Chakresh Jain. He's asking, can we place clamp first and then sheet in case of wing clamps?
You can, but there are more chances of the sheet tearing because the sheet has to pass through the wings also. So you have to stretch it so much that there are chances that the sheet might tear when you are trying to push it through. So it is always better to put it outside the mouth and then take it inside. Easier as a process. Or if you want to do it that way, use a wingless clamp.
And coming on to the last question, so Dr. Bhanumati Murali is asking, which is the best brand of rubber dam with a good quality?
Nictone for me has been the best brand till now. Nictone and Sanctuary are two which are really good. You have good sheets from MKR also. And if you are looking at non-latex, the Coltine FlexiDam that I showed in a couple of cases is really good.
Okay, there is one more question coming now from Dr. Upendra Jain. He is asking how to place dam for cases with bridge in between and wants to isolate multiple teeth like quadrant. I think you already answered.
So wherever the bridge is, you will have to go split in those cases. Apart from that, because you will not be able to pass through the bridge, that will be a split dam in that place, and everywhere else it will be an individually isolated tooth. So say you have a 7 and then you have a bridge from 4, 5, 6. So you cannot go through the 4, 5, 6. You will punch holes and connect them. So this will go split, a 7, then a 4, 5, 6 as one unit, and then the anterior as separate units.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Pratik Gupta. It was really a fabulous session. And now over to you, Dr. Anil Arora.
Thank you, Pratik. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I'm sure some of your videos are really going to be very, very appreciative. And viewers, I just want to inform you that in case you missed part of this presentation, you can always go to the Dentoscope Academy Facebook page and replay it at your convenient time. Thank you so much to the Dentoscope Academy. And as I said, our next speaker on this particular how-to series is none other than Dr. Suchitan Pradhan, who will be talking not only about how you optimize lasers in dentistry, but also certain protocols which need to be followed during these COVID times. Don't miss this extraordinary session, which will be on Wednesday, back to our regular time of 4 p.m., not like today, 2:30 p.m., but 4 p.m. on Wednesday, 13th May. Till that, stay safe. I won't say stay home because a lot of you have already started practicing. Bye-bye and good luck.
Bye.